morning. My name is Marion Dobbins, and I'm here today with Ms. Jessie, who is participating in an oral history project for the Civil Rights Archives of Northern Virginia. This is sponsored by Congressman Gerald Connolly in collaboration with the Library of Congress, George Mason Folklore Department, and the libraries of Prince William and Fairfax County. We are in the Prince William County District Office of Congressman Gerald Connolly, and the time is 11:36. Good morning, Ms. Jessie. Thank you so much for participating in this project.
Thanks for asking.
Let's get started. Could you give us your full name, where you were born, and what your occupation is now?
The name Lillie Jessie is Lillie Gallman Jessie. That's my maiden name. And I was born in Newberry, South Carolina. I've been in Prince William since 1970. I was a principal for 20 years in Prince William County, worked in the county for 35 years in other capacities at central office. I am now retired. Currently I'm the Prince William County representative for Occoquan on the Prince William County School Board. And other than being a retired principal and being on the school board, I am also a national consultant. I am the president and CEO of High Expectation Learning, which is my own personal consultation. My national consultation work is with Solution Tree. And I am an author.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you said that you grew up in South Carolina. Could you tell us a little bit about growing up in South Carolina and what it was like to be in the segregated South?
Well, it was very interesting. I grew up in Newberry, South Carolina, and I grew up at a time when we lived on a street. It was a totally segregated situation, and I lived on a street that directly in front of my home was this high school that I was not able to attend. In fact, the buses would, the white school across the street, the white students would ride by my house every day to go to the buses, to go to that particular school. And I attended an all-black school. And at that time, most of the African-American students, or Negro students as we were called during that time, we walked to an all-black school. My mom was a maid in South Carolina. And I think there are two things that registered for me. Was one, I spent a lot of my childhood watching white children do things that I was not able to do. For example, at the high school, because my street was a poverty area, so we had no lights on the streets. So we loved it when the baseball games took place at this white school, because the lights would come on and we would run around and say, the lights are on, the lights are on, and we would go outside and play hopscotch and all the kinds of things that we always engaged in as children. And in the summers, our entertainment was watching white kids swim. We would watch from the fence and watch them swim and do a lot of things. I grew up in a home where my parents maybe had a third grade education. So because we weren't allowed to go to public facilities, we didn't have books. My parents did not read. Not that they did not read, they had some level of literacy, maybe about, like I said, maybe third grade. So I had no one really that supported my reading at all, except my next door neighbor. There was a young girl who really helped me a great deal. So it was really a life of just watching other people do the things that I was not able to really do. What stuck with me was the fact that my mom was a maid, and she worked for a white family, and every day when she came home, she was always in the back seat of this lady's car, and that vision just really stuck in my head. I didn't really realize what it really meant until I think I was about 13, and she invited me to go to work with her, and not knowing, I walked in the house, and I knew you didn't go through the front doors. So we went through the garage to the kitchen where she started breakfast, and she said, go out and get the newspaper. So I didn't think anything about it. I was headed to the front door to pick up the newspaper. She said, "Oh, no, no, you don't go through the front door to get the newspaper. You have to go out the back of the house, go to the front door, get the newspaper, come back around, and then bring that newspaper through the garage and put it on the table so that that family could do its morning reading." That was a pivotal time for me because that's when I kind of developed what I like to call not goals. As a child, I don't know if I had any real high goals. My goal really was not to be a maid in South Carolina. My highest goal was to be, if I was going to be a maid, I was going to be a maid in New York. Now, why New York? Because in New York I could ride in the front seat and I could make a little bit more money. But the not goal was that I was not going to be a maid in South Carolina. I was going to be a maid in New York. When I went to high school, about 3rd grade, something happened that was pivotal in an all-black school. The high schooler next door, who was my tutor and mentor, I guess, when I think about it, worked with me, taught me cursive writing, and all of a sudden there was this play, and the play was I Am the Spirit of Dawn. And they were, if you learn the part, you could be the lead, take the lead role. So my mentor next door, and I'll tell you, because there are African Americans who will know that they have a person with this name. Her name was Punchi, because, you know, you have all these nicknames. Anyway, so Punchi and I went on this project, and she decided that she was going to teach me this role. And I learned this thing, and I walked into school after Christmas, and they said, "Who knows the part?" And I raised my hand, and I said, I do. And I went to the front of the classroom and just rambled off the entire speech. And the teachers were stunned because I was not the kid that they thought was going to learn this role, this play. And I surprised them. And in my memory, I just remember them taking me at 3rd grade from room to room and saying, "Look who learned the part, look who learned the part." And I kind of thought of it in a positive way. And when I think back to how I looked with that little, as they would say down south, that little nappy-headed braid sticking up in the top of my head, I don't think they were quite saying, "Look who learned the part." They were saying, "Look who learned the part." My real name was Lillie Mae. Lillie Mae learned the part, and it was pretty much, you know, I think we're going to have to give it to her. And I think back now, I think, you know, we can probably clean her up, and sure enough, I did that role, and I was a Spirit of Dawn, and that was in 3rd grade. In 6th grade, we didn't have a cafeteria. We didn't really have a library. We had this little store that you went to, and every Friday my father would show up, and he loved cars. He couldn't afford a car, but somehow my dad always had a car. I don't know how he did this. But he worked at this grain mill for a while, and he would come on Friday and give me a quarter. And we would go to this little store, and in the South it was Pepsi and peanuts, and there are people who, if you're looking at this, they know what I'm talking about. And the kids were always very jealous because my father would come with this quarter. But on this particular day in 6th grade, Mrs. Jackson, my 6th grade teacher, went to the car. And that was serious because you grew up in an all-black school, and it really was a village. Everybody knew everything, and everybody reported everything. Anything you did not go unnoticed, and it was reported. So I thought, why is she talking to my dad? So when I got home, he said, Miss Jackson said that you're not coming to school on certain days. And I said, well, yeah, and I guess the term is hooky because I really didn't feel I looked right. I don't really remember being a great reader at all. And he said, she says she thinks you're smart. And I said, really? Me? And that one statement changed my life because I had pretty good grades, but I pretty much became straight A. from 6th grade, 8th grade. At 8th grade, we moved to another all-black school, which was Gallman High School. No relationship to my maiden name. And I had a teacher named Mr. Scott. He was my advisor. And Mr. Scott saw something in me that I obviously didn't see in myself. He would walk up and down the hall my senior year, and he said, and I was a straight A kid pretty much, and he said, "Lillie Mae, you're going to college." And I was like, "Mr. Scott, really? I don't think so." My parents made all of $45 a week between them. There was no way I was going to go to college. And one of the other not goals was, for girls, it was finish high school and do not get pregnant. So I pretty much had exceeded all the goals. I mean, come on, I'm graduating from high school, I haven't gotten pregnant, I'm going to New York, I'm going to be a maid in New York. And he just persisted. He was up and down the hall saying, "Lillie Mae, you're going to college, Lillie Mae, you're going to college." And he filled out the applications for me. He would get a scholarship and he'd come back and say, "I have a scholarship." I remember Allen University, which was an all-black, because we had all-black colleges and universities at the time. And I said, "Oh, well, how much do I have to pay?" And he said, "Well, it's a partial scholarship." And I said, "Oh, Mr. Scott, no, I can't afford it." So finally, he applied for a loan, and he said, "I've gotten a loan for you, and you're going to go to college." Helped me fill out the application.